You're slacking off on the cleaning lately, huh? I can see dust gathering in the corners. Remember, you're at home all day, so do it properly. If I spot dust again, I'm selling your laptop. My husband John's been distant since I got busier with my cartoonist work. When I'm swamped with deadlines, he nags about house chores and even makes me redo them. He expects perfect cleaning since I'm home, but cartooning is my passion. I won't give up. Plus, John's hiding something, and I'm done forgetting him. I'm Ann, 31, and I freelance as a cartoonist. I draw essay-style cartoons and squeeze in work between household chores. When John and I, who's 35, got married 6 years ago, we agreed I'd be a full-time homemaker. 2 years into marriage, I lost both my parents and we moved into my inherited house, as I'm their only child. I didn't want to give up my passion for drawing cartoons, something I've been doing since my student days. I begged John, explaining that while I'm okay with being a housewife, my true dream is to earn a living through my cartoons. Right now, I'm only publishing independent comics, but could I please work from home? He seemed to think it was just a hobby, but reluctantly agreed, so I kept drawing after we got married. About 6 months ago, a magazine editor spotted one of my cartoons on my website, and I landed a 2-page, 4-panel cartoon gig in their monthly magazine. Since then, more offers for cartooning and illustrating have come my way, keeping me busy. But when I excitedly shared this with John, his reaction was openly disgusted. You're getting too caught up in this, aren't you? Your main role is supposed to be as a housewife, and your cartoons are just a side thing, right? I bet you're not making much, like pocket money. Why would you say that? I know you're not into cartoons, John, but being a cartoonist has always been my dream. It might be a small gig, but I'm getting paid, so I consider myself a professional. Please don't belittle it. But when I stood up for myself, John got even more upset. You're dependent on me, and you dare to talk back. If you're unhappy, start earning more than me. I was stunned. I typically bring in about $600 a month, but I limit my workload because of him. And then there's John, always nitpicking about the housework, like, you've been slacking on cleaning, huh? I see dust gathering. You're at home all day, so get it together. If I see dust again, I'm selling your laptop. It's like a threat, even though I know he's not serious. But it still scares me, and I end up spending time cleaning instead of meeting deadlines. When I'm busy, he gets even more annoying, pointing out every little thing that needs to be done around the house. Then came the breaking point. John always has dinner right when he gets home from work. That day was no different. He sat down, took a bite of the stew, and exploded. What's this? The carrot isn't cooked properly. Are you trying to mess with me? I come home exhausted, and this is what you serve your husband. I had been lost in my thoughts after meeting a deadline when John's sudden outburst snapped me back to reality. I turned to him just as he grabbed the glass of beer in front of him and splashed it over me. I was shocked. I never imagined I'd have beer thrown at me. The surprise hit me hard because I never saw it coming. I'm sorry. I must have been distracted while cooking. The rest of the meal should be fine, so you can just ignore the carrot. Midway through cooking, I realized I forgot to add the carrots. In my rush, I tossed them into the stew without parboiling them. Even though I had made sure the potatoes were cooked, I completely overlooked the carrots. It was unlike me to make such mistakes, and I felt awful. It seemed John couldn't forgive this slip-up as easily as I had hoped. It's frustrating to have a wife who can't even handle basic household tasks. Maybe I shouldn't have married you, John muttered as he stood up and walked out of the dining room. I hurried after him as he headed towards the bedroom. Where are you going? I need some space until you realize what you've done. What? I stood there stunned as John packed his things into a travel bag and walked out. I tried to follow him, but he hailed a taxi at the nearest station and disappeared. Despite my repeated calls and texts, he didn't respond or read my apologies. Overwhelmed, I collapsed and broke into tears. It was then that I felt a tap on my shoulder. Turning around, I saw Mr. Tom, John's boss. We used to work together before John and I got married, with Mr. Tom being my boss who had mentored me when I first joined the company. "Mr. Tom, you smell like alcohol. Were you drinking while cooking?" I joked, trying to lighten the mood. "Hello. I hate to admit it, but I had a disagreement with John," he replied somberly. "That guy can be a bit arrogant sometimes. It's manageable when it's just work-related, but I can only imagine how frustrating it must be living with him." I vented, feeling relieved to share my feelings. Mr. Tom nodded in understanding, flashing his trademark bright smile. That smile had always been a source of comfort to me during tough times at work. We decided to grab a bite at a nearby diner and catch up. "So what's got you so upset?" he asked kindly. "Well, it's my fault. I messed up the cooking today, tried making a stew, but the carrots weren't cooked well, and it upset John." "Ah, happens to the best of us. My wife does the same sometimes. When it does, we just roll with it. Getting worked up doesn't help, you know." I appreciated that perspective. A smile crept onto my face as we chatted. "So, no argument over drinks then?" "No, the beer smell? That's from John splashing it on me because of the cooking mishap. I thought I dried off at the station, but clearly not," I chuckled. "I've had that happen. Even if someone says you smell of alcohol, it's hard to be sure," Mr. Tom chuckled back. "What? He splashed beer on you over a small cooking mistake? That doesn't sound like John at all. I never liked the guy, but I never thought he'd do that to his wife." Mr. Tom's voice dripped with genuine indignation, oddly lifting my spirits. "Why did you come to the station? You look like you ran here in your apron." "Another issue with John?" I asked. "Yeah, John got strange, called me lazy, and stormed out, saying he wouldn't return until I reflected on my actions. I followed him here, but he took a cab and left. I'm lost," I explained. Mr. Tom's angry expression softened. "I can't say for sure now, but I have a bad feeling. I'll look into John. You might want to check the house for anything he left behind," he advised before we parted ways for the day. Following his suggestion, I searched John's usual spots and found a hotel points card in his pants pocket. It had been recently used on a Saturday, a day he claimed to be working. Suspicion grew as I recalled something forgotten: the GPS locator app we installed before marriage. I checked it and found John in an unexpected place, a popular tourist spot known for romantic dates. Convinced he was with someone else, I called Mr. Tom the next day. "Mr. Tom, thank you for yesterday." "No problem. Is everything all right? Did John not show up for work today?" Mr. Tom remained silent for a moment before exhaling heavily. "Yes, he's on paid leave for the next 4 days. I suspected as much. I hate to say it, but he's probably—" "I understand. This helps clear things up. Thank you," I replied. After ending the call, I made a decision and left the house. I had been contemplating my next move. If John ever betrayed me, this is what I would do. Once my task was complete, I dialed another number. "Hey, it's been a while," I greeted. The person on the other end responded cheerfully, but as soon as I brought up John, they sided with me. I hung up feeling reassured, believing things would soon take a positive turn. The following day, accompanied by a few individuals, I headed to the location pinpointed by John's smartphone GPS. It led us to a resort hotel near a renowned tourist spot. Currently, he appeared to be outside the hotel, with the GPS indicating he was near the beach. John's face drained of color the moment he laid eyes on me. Seizing the opportunity, I quickly aimed my phone at him and snapped multiple pictures, capturing him alongside a young woman in her early 20s. I had been discreetly photographing them for the past half hour, while John applied suntan oil to the woman, who was clad in a bikini. I allowed them to swim, patiently waiting to gather irrefutable evidence of John's infidelity. Their carefree demeanor or their blatant display of affection didn't shock me. Rather, I felt a sense of relief that they were providing solid proof. What truly rattled John, besides seeing me, was the presence of my in-laws behind me, both regarding him with stern expressions. "What's happening here, John?" I approached with a forced smile, causing John to stumble backward in the sand and land on his rear. my mother-in-law let out a disappointed sigh. How disgraceful, even for my own son. And who is this woman you've abandoned your wife for? She's useless at home, John blurted out, hastily pointing at me and shifting blame. Is it fair to say she does absolutely nothing? Even if she occasionally skips cleaning, she handles laundry, cooking, and dishes every day, doesn't she? Even I sometimes skip cleaning, and I detest laundry so much I leave it to your father at times. That's because you had a part-time job, right? But it's different with Anne. She's a stay-at-home wife who spends her time drawing and playing. My mother-in-law interjected, her tone firm. John's words fueled my father-in-law's anger. You're completely clueless, he exclaimed, drawing the attention of those around us. Some even seemed ready to capture the scene with their smartphone cameras. Why don't we continue this discussion in a more appropriate setting? I suggested, and everyone agreed. My in-laws and I headed to a nearby restaurant where John and the woman he was cheating with changed from their swimsuits into casual clothes and joined us. Once seated, we listened to John's explanation. I wanted Anne to be a stay-at-home wife, but she picked up this useless hobby of drawing cartoons and neglected her housework. When she refuses to obey me, it's only natural for me to seek a replacement wife, John declared. Mary was quick to respond. Wait, that's different from what you told me. You said you were troubled because of a stalker at your house, and you wanted to escape that reality for a while. I suggested going to the police, but you assured me the stalker would be caught soon. I wouldn't have gone out with you if I knew you had a wife, Mary sobbed, her distress evident. It turned out she was a college student who had met John on a dating app. Attracted to an older man, she agreed to date him, only to realize she had been deceived. I'm really sorry. I won't contact John again. Consider this a lesson learned, and I'll be more careful next time. Mary apologized, bowing deeply to me and my in-laws before showing us the screen where she deleted John's number. Leaving some money for her coffee on the table, she hurriedly left. I shot a glare at John, who looked stunned by Mary's departure. It's only natural that I have my own feelings and circumstances. I'm not some robot you can manipulate. Cheating just because things aren't going well is despicable, I admonished. Before John could respond, my father-in-law interjected, his tone firm. You still seem too content, John. But who's the one working and providing for Anne? You should respect me as the breadwinner. John trembled with anger, but my father-in-law addressed him calmly. You're acting like a child. Just because things aren't going your way, you're throwing tantrums like a toddler. Learn to accept reality. There's nothing more to say. With that, my in-laws stood up, settled the bill, and made their way to the register. Left alone with John, I found myself at a loss for words. John, I've been offered a serial comic strip in a magazine, I announced. John's demeanor shifted completely, and he looked at me with surprise. Oh, congratulations. Because of this opportunity, I can no longer be the stay-at-home wife you want. I'm sorry, but I'm tired of being with you, John. I want a divorce. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. You can pursue your comics, and I'll help with the housework. I won't be arrogant anymore, John pleaded, tears welling in his eyes. But I couldn't bear to look at him any longer. I'm sorry, but that's not the issue anymore. You looked down on me, didn't you? I believed marriage was about equality, but you saw yourself as superior because you were the provider, didn't you? Maybe I did, but I changed. I promise I won't make you suffer anymore. Please don't talk about breaking up, John begged. I've made the decision to sell the house we lived in. I have a relative who works in real estate, and they've agreed to buy it from me. There's still some paperwork and arrangements to finalize, so it won't happen immediately, but it'll be at a lower price than if we went through a broker. It's my house, and I have the right to do as I please with it, don't I? I want to end our relationship as soon as possible. I'm planning to leave tomorrow, and you should find somewhere else to stay as well. With that, I rose from my seat and headed for the exit. Unlike the day John left, he was now desperately chasing after me. However, when I got into the car, my father-in-law, who was behind the wheel, swiftly drove off. As I slammed the door shut, I saw John running after us, tears streaming down his face. But soon he disappeared from view. Afterward, It seemed John didn't believe what I had done. Upon his return from his trip and discovering the house empty of my belongings, he called me, his voice filled with anguish. I reluctantly answered the phone. "Why did you sell the house? It was our home, wasn't it?" "Why are you saying such things?" "It's the house I inherited from my parents, remember? But I should have some rights to it too, shouldn't I? In fact, there are no automatic inheritance rights for spouses when it comes to property. If you understand, please leave the house as soon as possible. Expect a call from the lawyer regarding alimony and divorce. Don't try to avoid it, okay?" I stated firmly before ending the call. Later, it seemed that John faced criticism from Mr. Tom for taking paid leave to go on a trip with his mistress. While there was no requirement to disclose the reason for taking time off, he was interrogated for betraying his wife. John faced difficulties at work, feeling ostracized by his colleagues and uncomfortable every day. Additionally, his in-laws had cut ties with him. John attempted to return to his in-laws' house, but they turned him away. After paying alimony, John depleted his savings and began accumulating debt. He now resides alone in a modest apartment, struggling to manage household tasks and leading a chaotic life. I later learned these details from Mr. Tom, but I felt no sympathy. Meanwhile, I settled into a tidy studio apartment and focused on creating drafts for my serialized comic strip. It's an anthology-style comic, drawing inspiration from various people's experiences. The next story I plan to illustrate revolves around marital infidelity, and I'm contemplating using John's situation as material.
I've been saving up a lot lately. My name's Cassie, and I can't help but smirk at my phone with a sneaky laugh. I'm 29 now, married for 2 years, and working hard as a housewife. Some of my coworkers think my smirk is weird, but I can't stop because I'm so close to saving enough money to build my dream home. The balance in my bank account is almost there. My husband, Max, and I don't have kids yet, but we've always planned to have some once we have our own home. I wanted to stay single a bit longer, but at 27, I fell in love with Max, who's a bit older than me. We work at the same company, but in different departments, which can be awkward, but I've stuck with it because finding a new job would mean less money. Now, after a lot of hard work, I'm almost ready to buy our dream home. It's been quite a journey. Life with my husband is smooth sailing, and our savings are growing steadily. We're content with our ordinary jobs and our plan to buy a simple home. Finding joy in this regular life is what makes me happiest. But there's one big hiccup, my relationship with my in-laws. It's the toughest part of being married. When I come home from work to our small rented apartment, seeing my in-laws' shoes at the door instantly drains me. They seem to be here again today. I let out a heavy sigh. I'm home. "Oh, you're back." The one who responds isn't my husband, Max, but my mother-in-law, comfortably seated on our cramped sofa. "Good evening. Do you always come home this late?" Our in-laws live just 3 train stops away, which is too close for comfort. That's why my mother-in-law often drops by without considering the inconvenience. "You're home late again. What about Max's dinner?" This happens too often. No sympathy for my long work hours, just complaints from my mother-in-law. "I'm sorry, work was hectic." "I'll cook something now. Max has been home for a while." "Cassie, aren't you a bit inefficient?" Even though Max and I work at the same company, our jobs are very different. Max rarely has overtime in his department, but he earns less. My department, however, is crucial to the company, often requiring me to work late. That's why I earn the highest salary in the company. I never bring this up myself, and I wish Max would, but maybe his pride gets in the way. He never speaks up. Right now, he's just quietly drinking his tea. Even though we both work, I feel like Max could pitch in a bit with the housework, but he steadfastly avoids it. Whether it's shopping, laundry, cleaning, preparing the bath, or cooking. When he gets home from work, he's either glued to the TV or absorbed in his phone. Oblivious to all this, my mother-in-law, as usual, came over to criticize me today. It's okay. I already had dinner with Max. "Oh, you've eaten?" "We had some amazing sushi." I decided to treat Max to something nice for a change. I see. I was taken aback when I heard the name of the sushi restaurant. Isn't that an upscale place? Though surprised, since my mother-in-law footed the bill, I decided to let it slide and started heading to the kitchen to make my own dinner. But my mother-in-law stopped me. Cassie, I hate to ask, but could you do me a favor? I'm a bit short on cash this month. Could you lend me some? Just as I suspected, my mother-in-law often asks for money like this. I wanted to say, hold on a second. That doesn't seem right. You went to a fancy sushi restaurant, didn't you? And last month, you said you were struggling and begged for money. I reluctantly gave you $300, even though we're also tight on cash. And the month before that, and the one before that. Aren't you being a bit careless? But I held back and managed a strained smile. I'm sorry, we're all having a tough time this month. Can't you do anything for your struggling parents? You're the cold one, not me. Who's really cold here? Your son, who neglects his duties at home, leaves his wife alone, and goes out to eat sushi. Seems pretty cold to me. Finally, my husband Max chimed in. Cassie's mom is in a tough spot. Can't you lend her a hand? Oh, so we're really struggling this month, huh? Well, Mom, I'll help you out. Max sighed and pulled $500 from his wallet, handing it to his mother. Max is such a kind and wonderful son, unlike Cassie. I was stunned as my mother-in-law shot me a glare and headed for the door. I thought she was leaving, but then she turned back and glared at me again. Max, if you ever want to divorce your money-hungry wife, you're always welcome to come back home. I'll keep that in mind. With a slam, my mother-in-law left. What was that all about? I turned to Max, who was already lounging on the sofa with his phone. I confronted him. Why did you give her $500? If we have that much extra cash, why not put it towards our household expenses? I had my reasons for asking. While Max pays the rent for this apartment, that's the extent of his contributions. I cover all the bills like utilities, phone, groceries, and other expenses because Max refuses to chip in. What do you mean? I pay the rent, don't I? You expect more than just that. You're so greedy. That's Max's usual way of avoiding financial responsibility. I'm taking care of everything else, including the phone bill you're holding. It's understandable you earn more, but I only make a bit more than your salary. We're barely making ends meet with our expenses and savings. Oh, you have enough to save? Then you should be fine. Suddenly, he reached out his hand when I mentioned savings. What's this for? I gave my mom $500, and now I'm broke. Can you lend me some cash? What? Seriously, this is unbelievable. Despite keeping almost all of his salary except for rent, Max always claims he's short on money every month. He used to justify it by saying, a man needs to socialize and entertain, and I reluctantly went along. But not today. Why should I foot the bill for you and your mom's sushi? Why am I responsible for that? It's a way to honor parents. What about me? Neither Max nor my mother-in-law ever show appreciation. It feels like I'm just a paycheck to them. And what was that about considering divorce? Exactly what it sounds like. If you keep being so tight-fisted, I might have to consider it. With that, Max locked himself in the bedroom. He even went as far as locking the bedroom door. In our tiny apartment, there aren't many places to go. With the bedroom inaccessible, my only option was to sleep on the sofa. These days, amid all the stress, the only solace I find is in checking my bank account balance. After enduring yet another round of sarcasm and financial demands from my mother-in-law, I opened my phone before starting my overtime shift at work. Logging into my savings account, which I've had since I was single, I thought everything was on track for our dream home. That is, until I saw something that made me freeze. What's going on? I exclaimed, abruptly apologizing to my boss before rushing home. Max, are you here? Oh, what's going on? You're home early today. Max looked surprised. Before him lay an assortment of what looked like expensive sushi, and he wasn't alone. Welcome home, Cassie. We're just visiting. Both in-laws were present, not just my mother-in-law, but my father-in-law too. I couldn't help but wonder why they were here. What's happening? We're having sushi. Want some, Cassie? Sushi? Where did this come from? Oh, we had some extra cash, they replied. Pressing for more details, both Max and my in-laws seemed taken aback. I grabbed Max's collar, as if to keep him from escaping, and he reluctantly handed me something. It was the bank book for the account I had just checked online. Flipping it open, I was left speechless when I saw the transaction history. What's going on? How did you withdraw this? I demanded, my anger rising. Well, I just guessed the PIN, and it worked. Lucky me, right? Max replied casually, showing no remorse for taking out a large sum of money without my consent. I was furious and on the verge of exploding at Max for his nonchalant attitude. How dare you take my money without asking? The funds I had diligently saved since my single days had been withdrawn without my knowledge. Come on, we're married, aren't we? What's mine is yours. Don't be so uptight. This is the savings I've worked hard for since before we got married. Give it back. Relax, Cassie. What's yours is mine, naturally, Max said dismissively. Living off Max's support while secretly saving such a large amount of money. You're so greedy, Max accused, his tone accusatory. Yeah, exactly. You should appreciate me more. Who do you think you're depending on? It's unbelievable. I feel like I'm alone in this. Don't joke around. Taking my money like this is no different from theft. Give it back. Who's joking? Max snapped, clearly startled by the accusation. Annoyed, he continued, Don't forget, I'm the one paying the rent here. And I have plenty of social obligations to fulfill. Plus, I help my parents. Right. Max is such a wonderful son. You leave the rent to me and secretly save all this money. It's easy for you. You only cover the rent. You hardly ever entertain, yet you ask me for money while supporting your parents. Stop it. You married into this. It's only right for you to respect me and my parents. What's more, be grateful I haven't divorced you for being so useless, Max yelled, grabbing my hand and pushing me out the door. Hey, no sushi for you. Go cool off outside. I never expected to be kicked out. After standing there in shock for a while, I ended up spending the night in a business hotel. The next day, when I returned home, only Max was there. I was relieved the in-laws were gone. But then Max handed me a piece of paper. It was a mutual agreement statement stating that if I didn't obey him, we would divorce. What's this? Listen, if you keep complaining, we're getting divorced. If you don't want that, just obey me silently. I'll take charge of the savings from now on, Max declared, flaunting the bank book. Then he got ready to leave. Where are you going? Out for a drink. What? Do you have a problem? Want a divorce? He taunted with a smirk and left. Such a foolish man. Did he really think threatening divorce would make me comply? My love for Max had completely vanished. Besides, did he seriously think there was still money left in the account he emptied? I had already withdrawn it all and moved it to another account. I felt uneasy keeping a large sum in one place, so I had multiple accounts. The bank book Max took was just one of them. I signed the paper without hesitation. Max's attempt at a threat didn't faze me. It was exactly what I desired. Quickly, I packed my belongings and left the house. I spent another night at a business hotel, and the following day, I took a day off work to file for divorce as soon as the city office opened. Then, I headed straight to a real estate agency. The previous night, while browsing on my phone at the hotel, I stumbled upon a property that caught my attention. A newly built detached family home near the station, perfect for commuting. It was almost love at first sight. The exterior and interior matched what I had envisioned. After viewing it, I made the decision to purchase the house on the spot. From then on, everything happened in a whirlwind. Staying in a business hotel until the move became too costly, so I explained my situation and stayed with a friend while getting ready for the new house. I had to start from scratch with furniture and other arrangements. Amid the whirlwind of activity, I completely forgot about my ex-husband and former in-laws. Hey, Cassie! Max's voice startled me one day when he showed up at my workplace. "Oh, right, we work at the same company." As Max loudly called my name, drawing everyone's attention, he approached me without hesitation. "Why haven't you been returning my calls?" "Oh, I didn't think they were important," I replied, remembering Max's persistent calls. I was preoccupied and didn't want the hassle, so I ignored them. "You withdrew money from the account on your own, didn't you? Stop playing around. And why haven't you come back home? Do you really want to get divorced?" "It's fine," I replied nonchalantly. "We're already divorced, and that money in the account is mine, so I can do as I please with it," I stated firmly. Max still seemed to view the word divorce as a threat. My casual response left him looking bewildered. "What a silly expression. It's almost comical. What divorce? You mean you graciously offered it to me, and I graciously accepted," I remarked. "What? I don't accept this," Max protested. "Whether you accept it or not, the divorce is final." "Oh, and I've already informed the company and completed all the necessary procedures. You might have some paperwork to handle, so make sure to report it to your boss, okay?" With that, I redirected my attention to my computer. "I'm busy." "Where are you living now? You left your belongings at the house," Max inquired. "I took what I needed. I'm comfortably settled in with new things I bought. Don't worry about me. And as for your whereabouts, that's none of your concern. This is a matter of privacy, so please refrain from prying any further," I replied firmly. With that, Max fell silent. Eventually, feeling the weight of the stares from my colleagues and boss, Max left the department without saying another word. "Cassie's been through a lot," my colleagues sympathized. The comfort of my new home was unparalleled. The scent of a freshly built house was unforgettable. It was spacious and cozy. However, having just moved in, there were still many things I needed. Today, I was anticipating the delivery of some appliances I had ordered online. Then the intercom rang. "Ah, it must be here," I thought as I went to open the door. I immediately regretted it. I cursed myself for not checking the intercom. Standing before me was Mother. Technically, my former mother-in-law, but the words slipped out in my surprise. There she stood, accompanied by my former father-in-law. And further back, Max was lingering. "Long time no see, Cassie." "I'm coming in," Mother announced. "Wait, hold on," I protested, taken aback. My former mother-in-law barged into the house and began inspecting it as if assessing its value. "Oh, this property is quite nice. And this furniture is lovely. Move it to my room, will you? Oh, there's a basement too." "Excellent. Then this will be our room," she declared. Excuse me, but what's with these curtains? Dreadful taste. I'll choose new ones for you, so hand over the money," she continued. "The garden is quite spacious. Perhaps I'll start a vegetable garden." What were these people going on about? Confused, I turned to Max. "Max, what is?" "Be grateful, Cassie," Max interjected. I was about to confront them when my former mother-in-law cut in with irritation. I looked at her smug expression. It's not much of a house, but as a gift for the parents, it's decent. If it's a two-family home, we'll move in. Of course, as the wife, you'll do the housework. We'll be generous and only ask for $1,000 a month for our allowance." What? What on earth is she saying? Are they from another planet? I couldn't comprehend and just tilted my head. "As the wife, I'm single now, you know," I added, surprising both my former mother-in-law and myself. "Max, you didn't tell them?" I questioned. "I don't accept it," Max shouted. But it didn't matter whether he accepted it or not. The divorce was final. We were complete strangers now. Upon hearing my declaration, my former mother-in-law's face paled. "What do you mean you're abandoning us?" "Your parents." "My parents live in the countryside. I was planning to invite them over soon," she protested. "Don't joke around. This house is ours," she insisted. "No, it's mine," I retorted. What was she thinking? This house was purchased with my savings in my name. "Then where are we supposed to live?" she demanded. "I don't know. That's not my problem," I replied, feeling the weight of their expectations. Apparently, they had already sold their house and the contract was finalized. They planned to live a comfortable life in this house with the money from the sale and whatever they could extort from me. It was a frightening plan. "I don't accept this," my former mother-in-law continued to protest. "But it doesn't matter. We're strangers now, and this house is mine. I won't accept it, absolutely not," I asserted firmly. In her anger, my former mother-in-law ripped the curtains. "Hey, what are you doing? These things I don't need, such bad taste. This is my house. I'll dim as I please," I snapped back. "That's right. What's yours is mine. Everything you own is mine," she insisted. "Listen, I don't accept this divorce, and both my parents and I are going to live here," Max shouted out. "Oh no, this is getting out of hand," I thought, just as I heard sirens. I had secretly called the police when Max and my former mother-in-law barged into the house. Finally, the police arrived. "What are you doing?" "We haven't done anything wrong," they protested. "That's right. If anyone should be taken, it's this woman," my former mother-in-law added. After a scene, they weren't arrested but were escorted away by the police. It had been a tumultuous day. After being released, Max continued to come by, insisting on reconciliation and getting picked up by the police each time. He even followed me to work. So after consulting with my boss, George, he received the stern warning. Misusing his wife's savings and assaulting her new home became the talk of the office, leading to an uncomfortable working environment for Max. His resignation seemed to affect him mentally, and he struggled to find new employment. My former in-laws, having sold their house, moved into the cheap apartment where Max and I had lived. It was an old, poorly maintained place, so it wouldn't have fetched much money. With the money from the sale, it seems like the three of them will be able to live modestly. Finally free from all the drama, I'm relishing the comfort of my own home. Although I offered to have my parents from the countryside move in with me, they're not quite ready to make the move yet. So, for the time being, I'm enjoying the solitude of living alone. Perhaps I'll consider remarrying if the right person comes along. But for now, I'm content. One of the first things on my agenda is to get a dog, something I couldn't do while living in the apartment. I also have plans to try my hand at gardening and to host home parties with friends. As I gaze out the window at the blue sky, I think about all the things I couldn't do before and how I want to embrace any